I'd like to start this video off by thanking you all for the support on my deck spotlight. It really means a lot, honestly. And to give a big thank you to all the new subscribers for joining me on my journey. We've got a long road ahead of us, but we'll get there together. Of course, due to the amount of time I spent creating that deck spotlight video, I've been slacking a lot on covering leaks. So I wanted to get back into it with the Shining Legends cards. Today I'll be covering the cards that really stood out to me in terms of competitive viability. While some of the cards I mentioned will probably not see play, I'd like to talk about their synergy and potential places in the meta. So without further ado, let's get into my picks for Shining Legends. First on my list is Shining Mew. Well, we finally have a way to accelerate psychic energy in the format. It's very similar to Xerneas, but it only has 30 HP. So you probably won't be seeing this in the active slot for very long, but its attack could be accessed through other Mew cards, so I wouldn't write it off just yet. Another Pixie legendary that grabbed my attention was this new Jirachi card. I've been preaching the viability of Espeon EX for a while now. Its attack allows you to de-evolve your opponent's Pokemon, and Jirachi is very similar. You're losing some assets like HP, a second attack, and the flexibility of the attack's cost. But your niche tech card is now only one prize, and I think that trade-off could be worth it. This Marshadow card is also rather interesting, as its ability is more or less an N. The problem with this is it takes up bench space, and it does not do anything else that's remotely useful. I could maybe see this making its way into a Mega Gardevoir deck, but that deck already struggles to see play, and I don't really see this card pushing its viability that much further. Speaking of bench space, Zoroark GX tries to again fill the archetype of doing damage based off of your bench size. And if you're already running Zorua in a deck, this card could just be another useful tech. It gives you another attacking option while also providing an itemless draw engine. Overall, it just seems like a good card, and you only really need one stand-in Zoroark at a time. Unless, of course, you get sniped by this Entei GX. Its GX attack does a clean 150 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. This could snipe things like Vileplume, Garbotoxin, and yes, even a Zoroark break. It also works if your opponent has retreated a damaged Pokemon, trying to prevent you from taking prizes. Combined with its guaranteed burn on a respectable 100 damage attack, Entei's no slouch. The problem is, it's a fire type. Now, obviously that's not actually a problem. What I mean is, it has to compete with Volcanion. It's a situation of, if you can't beat him, join him, but Volcanion's running out of room. Of course, like I said, Entei can kill off Garbotoxin and has a reusable attack that can benefit from Steam Up. Is that enough to earn it a spot? We'll have to see. Another card I can see trying to earn a spot is Shining Ho-Oh. It deals a respectable 110 damage, which can further be increased by Steam Ups, though it requires you to discard an energy. However, Ho-Oh really shines when used as a target to detach your energy, as its ability will allow you to move 2 energy from it to your bench when it's knocked out. Because of this, it's an attractive option for things like Kiawe, and will deter your opponent from forcing it in. You could even use Ninja Boy later on when you're getting ready to attack. It's just good to have a somewhat reliable way to keep your energy in play. You know, that reminds me, we have not been seeing a lot of Darkrai lately, have we? Turbo Rai has been hurting pretty bad, with things like Field Blower and Trasherlanche punishing its reliability on trainer cards, along with just the sheer force of GX Pokemon. Our king has fallen from his throne. If only Dark types had a card like Ho-Oh to attach energy to. Oh look, a new Hoopa card. At first look, it's very lackluster. 3 energy for 80 damage and no effect, but Hoopa's ability, Bandit Guard, prevents all effects of attacks, including damage from both your opponent's EX and GX Pokemon. So while it's not a great attacker, its ability allows you a relatively safe battery to store your dark energy on. It's also a pretty beefy 120 HP, with a resistance to Psychic, our favorite trash monster's typing. Of course, Garbotoxin will shut its ability off, but it'll be adding a few more hoops for your opponent to jump through. But enough about Turbo Rai. Let's talk about Turbo Rai. Both Raichu and Raikou seem to have been inspired by our fallen king, and look to fill his position in the meta. We have the Raikou with Oblivion Wing, and the Raichu with Dark Pulse. I'm serious, the attacks are literally the same, but with lightning energy instead of dark. There are a few differences with the rest of the card, however. So, is this duo stronger or weaker than their dark counterparts? Let's first go over Raikou. He has the same retreat cost, but 10 less HP. His second attack does 10 less damage, but there's no risk to using it. With all of that in mind, I'd say they're pretty even, with Yveltal having a slight edge. I think it's more of the relation to its main attacker that will determine if it's competitive. So let's move on to Raichu. Raichu has 1 less retreat and 30 more HP, at the cost of requiring evolution. This means that Raichu does not have access to Fighting Fury Belt, but will have access to Dumbbells. Whether or not that will see play over Wish Baton and Choice Band will probably depend on the meta post-rotation. Of course, Field Blower is a very popular card, so being out of Drompa's Berserk range without your tool is a pretty big deal. Now that we've gone over the sheer stats, let's get to the exciting part, Raichu's other attacks. Its second attack, Thunder, I feel will see a lot more use than Darkrai's Dark Head. It's certainly got the better name. Thunder deals 160 damage, but 30 to yourself. This gives you a strong attacking option even if your opponent cripples your setup. This is the main reason why I think Choice Band will be favored, as 190 damage will knock out a lot of threats, like Lele, Drampa, Volcanion, and so on. And with a Kukui, it's hitting numbers that will knock out things like the Evolutions and Ninetales. Though, I feel the real selling point is Volt Tackle GX. We've seen just how devastating paralysis can be with Lapras GX, but it's even more beneficial here, as it is essentially allowing you an extra turn of setup. This is fairly crucial, especially versus Garbodor, as you don't want to be dropping down a bunch of items to thin your deck, and you may just end up needing that extra turn. Speaking of paralysis, you could even include the Burning Shadows Raichu as a tech. And if you're like me and always preferred the Dark Dragons version of the deck, you could try substituting DDE with the Buzz Up Electrode. Well, that's it for the cards I want to cover today. But before I go, I'd like to say congrats to Nightclaw for winning the giveaway. Unfortunately, you don't have a confirmed YouTube name, which means I can't message you, so make sure to go do that. In the future, I'll try using a different method for giveaways. With that out of the way, I'll see you guys for the next video. Until then, this has been the Ecourts. Goodbye.